How online quizzes for lead generation create a new level of personalization, why to let your audience talk about themselves, and the importance of listening to your customers before automating your marketing. That and more on this episode of Advertising Influencers.
Advertising Influencers. Conversations with today's top-tier marketers from Silicon Valley and beyond. Powered by Instapage, the most powerful landing page solution.
Hello. Hope you're doing very well whenever and wherever you're listening. My name is Ander, marketing educator at Instapage, where we are on a mission to continually lower the cost of customer acquisition. Here in San Francisco, California, recording this episode, and really happy to have you here. Every single week, we speak with one of the best and brightest minds in the digital marketing and advertising spaces today. And that certainly includes the person that we had on the last episode. His name is John Bishop, and he's the director of growth at Heap Analytics, a company that's totally changed the way that I personally work with analytics and enabled me to do much more with data than I used to be able to do. It's a very small marketing team. John had a lot of interesting things to say, so hope you listen to that when you have a chance. But first, here's who we're talking to today. We are talking with Josh Haynam. He's the CEO and a co-founder of the Interact Quiz Builder. It's a tool used by more than 30,000 businesses, and this includes some big ones, including American Red Cross, Budweiser, Forbes, there's a bunch of others. And I would be willing to bet that he's probably seen more quizzes than many other marketers out there, certainly seen more quizzes than I have. Interact is a bootstrapped company. It was launched in 2013. And it's helped businesses bring in more than 5 million leads. Really impressive. The product is used by tons of different kinds of industries to create quizzes, to create giveaways, interactive polls, and a number of other things. Josh certainly has a lot to say, and he's coming to our office here in San Francisco, Instapage HQ. So without further ado, let's go say hello. So there's a lot of different types of marketing thought leaders, lots of different types of representatives from different companies that come in here to talk on this podcast. And today we're talking to somebody who works for a company, who is the founder of a company that is providing a tool like Instapage. It's not like Instapage, but it does help you lower your cost of customer acquisition. And I'm going to let him explain it. So Josh Haynam, CEO and founder of Interact. How you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate you having me here today.
Yeah. Thanks for coming to our office. You are in Oakland, and you took BART or something across the bay to get here. So thanks for coming out.
Yeah, I Lyft because I had to do some calls on the way, so not conducive to riding BART. But anyways, just a quick Lyft ride over, and happy to be here. But yeah, Interact is a platform for generating leads in a cost-effective way, and actually in a really new way. Mm-hmm. So basically what it is I'm sure you've all seen those quizzes that are on Facebook all the time. Mm-hmm. You know, clogging
the
up
BuzzFeed type.
BuzzFeed type.
Stuff, yeah.
Like everybody's in the game now. You know, what kind of soft drink are you? Like, tell us your preferences and we'll build you your perfect boyfriend type of thing. You know, all that kind of ridiculous stuff. But brands need to capitalize when there's trends like that. And so we have built a platform for brands to create quizzes exactly like those ones that you see on Facebook all the time, but it's for your company. And then as an added bonus, you can use it to collect leads. So when a quiz taker is going through a quiz that you've created for your brand that they found on Facebook, after they're done with the questions, there's a lead capture form that comes up and says, hey, in order to reveal your perfect boyfriend, you need to enter your email, and then we'll send you, dating advice or whatever, if it's from a dating website, right? And it's a way to not only capture those leads, but also segment them, because you can segment them based on which outcome they get.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny, like it's sort of obvious when you say it like that, but when I have, I guess you could say, fallen for it and taken those quizzes in the past, it never occurred to me for some silly reason that was part of the segmentation process, and that makes perfect sense.
Exactly. So, I mean, if we switch gears a little bit to like a coffee brand, right? And you think about a coffee brand making a quiz, like what's the best type of coffee for you? You've got light, medium, dark. They can actually segment you and then send you coupons for light roast coffees, right? And you've already found out that's your preference. It's personal to you. It's real. And they're able to follow up in a personalized way. And at that point, those emails are almost transactional. Like you've you've collected data from a person and then you're sending an email in response to that. So it's not a blast anymore. It's a real thing that's based on preferences of that specific customer. So it's really powerful for dividing up your list into different segments that you can actually send like the appropriate stuff to.
And does this quiz that I might come across as a consumer being targeted by a brand, is this something that lives on Facebook? Can it live on a landing page? Can it live on a website? Where does it actually go?
Yeah, so it can live on an Instapage. It can live on any other sort of landing page, WordPress, any page that you have that you own, you can add a quiz to, and it's just an iframe code. So
embeddable element, pretty easy to do.
Yeah, exactly like you'd embed a YouTube video. You can add a quiz to your site, and then everything is on your site at that point. They never leave your site. They never go anywhere else. The lead collection happens within the quiz as well, so they're always going to be on your site. And then you'd share out the URL of that landing page or page on your website where you have that quiz to Facebook as a post, as an ad.
Very, very cool. And what happens with that data that gets submitted? Does it just go to whatever third-party technologies you're using, or?
Yeah, so we integrate with everybody. All the new ones, ConvertKit, Drip, the older ones, MailChimp, Aweber, Constant Contact, GetResponse, even the big ones like Marketo and Eloqua and Pardot. So you can pass that data directly through to your email marketing or marketing automation program, and it's all going to be tagged by which outcome the person got on the quiz. So you can follow up with different sequences, different email blasts, things like that.
And Josh, obviously, this is not the only thing that you've engaged with as a professional. You know, you had a few things that you did before you moved into this. So I'm curious, what's the story with how Interact started, with how you got to forming Interact, how you came up with this idea?
Yeah, definitely. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, actually since like 15, 16 years old. I was buying and reselling used laptops, which was very lucrative at the time. It was like 7 or 8 years ago. So that's how I got my start. I've started a few companies since then, just smorgasbord of things, really. Just always had that spirit to create things and build something for myself. Interact actually came out of a lull in that. So when I was in college, I kind of ran out of ideas. I had finished the laptop thing. I had done a couple other things. Nothing really panned out. And so for a while, myself and a buddy were just doing agency work. We were finding clients. They were paying us handsomely to build them websites, do all their marketing, all that kind of stuff. And it was really interesting because we would get a client. They would pay us $30,000, $40,000 to build their website, do all of their marketing, do all their SEO, do all their email blasts and everything. And at the end of the day, the only number they ever cared about was how many new email subscribers did I get? Like, how many new leads did I get? That's all they would ever ask us. And we were just like, well, we did this and this and this. And they were like, we don't care. Like, we just want to know that number. And in there somewhere, one of our clients had asked us to build them a quiz to capture emails. And I think it was a sales consultant, actually. And his quiz was, what type of salesperson are you? And it had an email capture form. It was connected to Aweber. It was getting him leads. And that thing killed it. 75% conversion rate.
75% conversion rate on the quiz, and where was that quiz living?
On the quiz, and it was on his homepage. So it was plastered like across his homepage. It was kind of a website takeover. There was obviously other content and like blog posts and contact information, stuff like that. But that homepage, 75% of the people who started taking the quiz, and about half the people that hit that page started taking the quiz because it was so appealing. So your overall conversion rate was still amazingly high. And he had requested that. We built it, custom code. It was a mess. It took weeks. But at that point, we kind of knew we had put 2 and 2 together. It's like, everybody just wants leads. This thing works to get leads. Nobody's doing this thing. And I remember I called, some of the biggest names in marketing to ask them, is anybody doing this? And they were like, no, but you should. And that's really where it came from. And that was 4 years ago. And since then, we've been able to build out the platform into something that really anybody can use. And now there's 3,500 or 35,000 companies using it. So
wow, that's a good number.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
So you came up with the idea. Obviously, there is a need for this. You guys want to fulfill that need. How did you guys grow to what you are today?
Yeah, so it's been a mix of things, and it's been almost all educational because this is a new concept. When we started, and even today, there's very few people using quizzes for lead generation and marketing. It's just not something that's in the repertoire. So all of our marketing has been about how to do that and how to do that effectively. So over 500 blog posts on how to do everything, a lot of videos, a lot of infographics, a lot of just content in general that's like, here's how this works to grow your email list, to get you more leads, to grow your business. And that's been it from the start. And now we've got an entire network of people that are writing those posts and promoting them on our behalf, other marketing professionals and things like that. So we're amplifying those efforts, but it's literally been the same thing the entire time, just giving that education, like explaining how this works in all sorts of different industries and use cases, and just being really, really clear about how this actually happens. And that's been all we've really done.
Have you discovered throughout this process that a lot of people just don't get it? It's actually kind of a hard to grasp concept for some companies out there.
Yeah, so that's been fascinating to watch too. I mean, like I said, 4 years is a long time in tech, and that has changed dramatically. At the beginning, when we would email people and connect with people, nobody got it. Nobody understood what we were talking about. It would take literally an hour of talking to somebody before they were like, oh, I get it. Now that makes sense. Now that's changed. It's shifted to where there's a good portion of the marketing world that's like, yes, this makes sense. I understand how this works on the consumer side. That should be applied to the business side. You know, marketing departments and companies should be using this as a way to engage their potential customers and generate leads. I get it. And it's a much quicker conversation. Sometimes you don't even need a conversation. They can just go ahead and sign up and get started. So that's been a seismic shift from where we started. But yeah, I mean, in a lot of industries, it still is like, what's going on here? How does this work? How does this apply to my specific use case? So that's been a big challenge for us.
What are some of the differences that you've seen in how B2B versus B2C companies are using this? Because when I think of quizzes, I think of them as something that's very, very B2C focused. And part of that's because when I think quiz, I think BuzzFeed, but I know it doesn't necessarily work that way. And that's just kind of, you know, what's ingrained in my thinking over however many years it's been. But obviously, it's something that can be used in a B2B context as well.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear what your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is still primarily B2C. I would say the split's about 80-20 for us. But in the B2B applications, I think this is an opportunity for them to learn how to really personalize their marketing. So I think B2B falls into this trap of we sell to companies, so we need to sell to the company. And they forget that they're not selling to a company, they're selling to an individual in that company. So for example, if you're an IT company selling server software or training courses for server software to another IT company, instead of saying like, is your infrastructure solid or something like that would apply to the entire company, you would do something along the lines of, what's your IT personality? Or what's the personality of your IT team? And that applies to an individual because the result of that quiz is a specific personality and not like a score or something very vague. And so I think B2B has to kind of remember that even though you are selling into an organization, there's still an individual that's going to be your advocate and say, I want to buy this. You're not selling to a room of people. Somebody has to make that decision. So I think they can actually learn a lot from what the B2C market and even like the general like news, you know, BuzzFeed, New York Times, like Zimbio, all these other websites that have killed it with quizzes, what they're doing, and they can draw that back in. Obviously, you have to remember to stay on brand and don't, you know, it doesn't make any sense to do like, what color are you if you're selling, you know, server software. But, you know, you do have to remember that it's an individual and not some sort of conglomerate that's making these decisions, and you should write a quiz appropriately to that person.
Mm-hmm. What do you think it is about quizzes that appeal to people?
So there's a couple of things. The number one thing is that quizzes let people talk about themselves. And if you look around at marketing, where else is that possible? You have content, you have videos, infographics, all these things that are broadcast mediums, one to many. There's no conversation going on. And Time Magazine did a study and they found that 40% of the words we say in our lives are about ourselves.
40%.
40% of the words
all
we
right.
say.
And I can believe that. Yeah.
Right? If you think about it, you're like, Oh yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And we actually get like a small release of dopamine in our brains when we talk about ourselves. Like we kind of get high off of talking about ourselves because we love doing it. And a quiz lets you do that. Like you get to answer like which of these horses is your favorite, or like what's your favorite animal. Like you get all these like, and those are silly examples, but even in a more practical sense, like, you know, what's the most effective marketing strategy for your business? And you get to answer that question, and it's something that is about you, especially if you're in the marketing department. So that's the number one thing. And then the number two thing is that they always tell you something good about yourself. So it kind of plays into that narcissistic tendency. And so when you get an outcome and it's like, you're great because of X, Y, and Z, and X, Y, and Z are literally things that you just said in the quiz, like they were the answers to the questions that you put in. They're being spit back to you as positives. That makes you feel good about yourself. And that's just something that we like. Like we like to learn about ourselves, and especially when it's a positive thing about ourselves, that's amazing. So really it's those two things, like getting to talk about yourself and then getting to learn about yourself, especially when it's a positive thing. And those are two like very human things. Like they are not changing. They've been the same for all of time.
Yeah, for sure. And I was actually going to move on to your marketing philosophy, which it sounds like we're sort of getting into here. And one component I would guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you think that there are not enough marketers that are creating environments for their target users or personas or members of their audience to speak about themselves. Is that something you'd agree with?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I think people need a connection. They need somebody to talk to. And in terms of the way that we do marketing, it's really two-pronged. I mean, I mentioned the content before, which is educational, but that is a broadcast. But we also have, from day one, put a huge emphasis on talking to as many people as we can. And when I say talking, I really mean listening. And we'll get on the phone with clients, and you know, now we have a team of people that do this 10, 15, 20 times a day and just listen. And that doesn't exactly sound like marketing, but it does play into everything else you do. If you sit down and you listen to a client, to a potential client, somebody who's never heard of you, talk about their struggles, you're going to be able to create better content. You're going to be able to create a better website. You're going to be able to create better materials and messaging. All this stuff comes into play because you're sitting down and you're just taking the time to listen to what somebody's struggling with, what they're interested in. And you can ask, you know, good questions and things like that. But that's really, I think, a huge missed opportunity in marketing, is that we just don't listen enough to what people are actually having trouble with.
Mm-hmm. What about the rest of your marketing philosophy? How would you describe that? And I'm also curious to know how it's changed since you founded Interact. What's changed about the way that you look at marketing?
I think the philosophy has always been to help people get what they want. And oftentimes that comes through explaining how to do something that they're interested in. So in our case, it's quizzes. You know, I'm interested in this concept. This is intriguing to me. Tell me how to do it. And then also listen to me, you know, struggle with how to do it. So I think it's really about helping people get what they want. And there's a quote about that. It's like, if you help other people get what they want, you'll end up getting what you want, something along those lines. And I definitely believe in that. And that's really been my marketing philosophy for a long time. I think it's played out in different ways as this company has grown. You know, at first it's like one-to-one. How do you do it, you know, with one individual? And then as you scale up, it's like, how do we make this more personal? How do we grow this thing we're doing, which is helping people get what they want? But instead of doing it one-to-one, how do I do it one-to-a-lot, but still make it feel like one-to-one, which is like a really meta question. And so as we've grown, that's kind of been the question that I've struggled with and tried to solve, you know, as we've gotten to be a bigger company, to where we just can't have a conversation with every customer anymore. So what we've done now is created a network of people that are explaining things to other people. And so we've got this like core group, and then there's another group outside of that, another group outside of that, and we're just spreading the message. And it's still a very personal thing. It's almost like storytelling, you know, one person tells a story to another person, so on and so forth. So I think that's how it's changed, is that it's scaled. It's gotten to be where it's a question of how do we do this on a larger level. But the core principle of just how do you let people get what they want through whatever product or service you offer, that's always been what I've tried to figure out.
Mm-hmm. And what about what's next? What is the future of marketing? And I know it's a super, super broad question. Like there's a million different ways you can go. But how would you describe what marketing looks like moving forward?
Yeah, so this will be a little bit meta, but what we always
It's a very
say,
meta question. So.
Yeah, and our core principle that we focus on whenever we're making a product decision or a new marketing decision is that we want to make marketing personalized for everyone. So when a brand is doing marketing, it should be a personal connection between that giant brand and one individual every time. And that individual should have a voice. They should get to state their opinions. They should get what they want out of the interaction. It should not just be some sort of blast that's going out and you hope that someone cares. And that's driven all of our product innovation thus far. I mean, it seems silly to say that quizzes are, this massive future thing where everything's personalized. But if you think about it, what it is it's really letting people tell you what they want and then giving them what they want. And that's personalized. That's the definition of something being personal to you. So I think marketing is going to continue getting more and more personal. Like the internet started off very vague and very impersonal, very cold almost, where there was just, basically brochures plastered online. And over time, it's gotten more and more real to the individual. And I think there's so much more to be done in that space. And when I have conversations with, CEOs of larger companies, that's what lights up their eyes. That's what they get excited about is how can I bring this brand that's giant down to an individual level and make it seem like something that every single person can connect with. And if we can do that effectively, there's so much power there.
Awesome. Absolutely agree. And doing this effectively obviously is very important. And as things become more personalized, as there's more technology out there, there's going to be more and more for us to know, more and more for us to be aware of. And I'm wondering, with what you just said in mind, how can we as marketers prepare for that? What can we continue doing to be prepared for this new future of marketing as it comes to fruition?
Yeah, I think this goes back to what I just keep on harping on here, which is listening to what people are asking for. Because when you want to make something happen, so let's say personalizing all of your marketing, right? How do you do that in the first place? Like, you have to know what all the steps are to get there. And in order to lay out those steps to be able to offer up a unique experience to every customer, you need to know what they come in with, what their questions are, what they're interested in, why they're confused about things, all that kind of stuff. And you're never going to figure that out if you don't listen. So I think it starts with listening to the customers that you want, and then just paying attention to what is the flow, what is the process that they go through when they're connecting with your product, when they're trying to buy whatever it is you have or engage with the services that you offer, and kind of backing that into automating things. And, this personalization has to be automated because, with tech companies at scale, you just can't have it be, there can't be any lag in the process. So it does have to be automated, but in order to automate personalization, you first have to know what you're supposed to be automating. So I think it starts with listening to the right people and then just really paying attention to what the commonalities are between the questions they have, the struggles they have, and then turning that into something that's an engine for personalizing every experience of new people that come to your site or to your company.
Awesome. Well, Josh, this has been really interesting, and I'm going to think about every single quiz that I take online when it's the middle of the night and I'm just, messing around on Facebook or whatever. I'm going to have to think about all of those very, very differently. How do I want this company to market to me?
Exactly.
How can people check out Interact?
Yeah, so we are at tryinteract.com, tryinteract.com. And we actually have a free tier you can get started with and kind of play around with how all the quizzes work. We've got a bunch of templates in there, so you don't even have to build your own. Just select your category and grab one. And that's the best way to get started.
Awesome. Well, Josh, once again, thanks for coming across the bay over to Instapage HQ here in San Francisco, right across from AT&T Park, which is still kind of cool, even though we've been here a few months. Thanks again. Really appreciate you coming in, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, I think it's a fairly accurate statement to say that every single time that I do a quiz from this point forward, and as much as I don't want to admit it, I will probably do another one sooner than I would like to admit. And I'm sure that you will as well. I'm never going to think of quizzes quite the same. And it's going to change the way that I answer the questions, because if they are personalizing their marketing to me by how I answer those questions, maybe I want to be a little more strategic about it. As always, with every episode, including this one, the show notes and a transcript are available on our website at instapage.com/podcast. And while you're there, there are a ton of other resources to check out. Lots of webinars hosted by yours truly, Ander Frischer. We've also got our blog, awesome video content created by our in-house video team, and information about our platform, the most powerful landing page builder for teams and for agencies. If you want to send me an email, reach out, say whatever it is, say hello, ask me some questions, continue a conversation about what Josh and I talked about in this episode, you're more than welcome to do so. My email is ander@instapage.com. That's ANDER @instapage.com. If you want to say hello to the rest of the team, you are also welcome to do so. You can find us all over the internet on social media. And yes, we would love to hear from you. All right, my fellow marketers, I am out for now. Cheers to your future success, and cheers to better marketing. I will talk to you soon.
Advertising influencers. Conversations with today's top-tier marketers from Silicon Valley and beyond. Powered by Instapage, the most powerful landing page solution.